They literally have,
Three people.
And you have three in the waiting room?
I do.
Probably.
Well, that's really here.
Did you see Abby just said something? Okay.
We.
Any board member?
Yes, Dawn and Kylie, yeah.
So I got. So that ranges. Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what it is.
Yeah, right. So they. Shakes for most.
I won't go back to the camera.
I'm waiting for two more online, Amanda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Minimum, two more online.
There's two more.
Yeah.
We're waiting.
I'm waiting. Actually, I lied. About Linda here for a second. I knew you were be temporary, but I didn't know I was gonna.
9:30.
9:30, you're out.
I think the deal is that we slow down, the world doesn't.
Right, that's true.
It's
Hey, so to this guy, he just overtook it.
then, you know, the pace of stuff changes now, it's so much more separated. And I'm really worried about just watching the stuff that AI. And like that scared on television the other day, Zuckerberg was talking about. He said, won't be long before most of our code will be written by AI. And, well, you can't teach it morale, you can't teach it. It's only knowledge of right and wrong, unless you can learn on yourself, is what you're just.
Good morning, how are you?
Yeah, right.
Good.
I go to work every day, that's enough.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, this. Yeah. Look at it, got that water.
I know he's got his bird on his shoulder.
it's okay. Yeah. Just for you.
Rare right now.
It sounds like it's.
Yeah, I'm busy. I
I think I.
Once I get a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. I
Well,
can see-
Yeah.
It's gonna be online, but we do have one more.
Don't have to.
Joe Cool, man.
We have a quorum right now.
Sorry.
We have 8.
That may be a background, but that's.
Yes.
The background it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Good place to spend time. Good place to be, spending time. Oh, yeah.
My recommendation.
We're gonna go ahead and get the meeting started today. So, and you wanna do roll call real quick?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Jerry,
Up here.
Suzanne. Just for the record, Suzanne is a new appointed, board member, from Hancock County, and, she's supposed to be here this, in person this morning, and we met last week. We work closely together. She is the, executive director, at the Hancock County, Ride Hancock County. And senior services as well, so. Larry,
Present.
Linda,
Here.
Don,
Here.
He's muted.
Don, I think you're muted or we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
He's here.
You're muted.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm muted.
Christine Altman,
Is there sound on, Chris?
hi. Ron Deere, Mike,
Here.
and Suzanne has just joined us. Hello, welcome Suzanne. So you have Andrew Kleiman. And Cam. Kylie.
Here, virtually.
Everybody does not have sound. And Rob
Here.
and Destiny. Is Destiny online? Please though.
No.
Can you guys hear us online? Can you give us a nod at least? Okay.
They have to do anything with voice if they appears they're all muted that they're in. But we can see them all. Is there a way that we can just say, put your name out?
They need to be seen and heard, so they'll need to unmute
Okay.
for votes.
See if someone can say something. I'm checking some of the.
Kylie, can you try to speak right now and see if we can hear you?
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you guys.
Great, we got it. Okay.
Don?
Don,
Yes.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's good.
okay, we're good to go.
Okay.
Oh, technology is always so much fun. So, all right. Well, good morning and thanks for those that just joined us. And we do have a quorum. So if you want to go ahead and get started.
Okay, first item is the consent agenda. We always have that first and, we just do that by a vote. And that's resolution 2025-02-11-01. If nobody has any questions, I'll take a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Linda, second by Rob. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, roll call, sorry.
Aye.
All right, roll call vote. Jerry Bridges,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Hi.
Larry,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Kylie,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Next item is new business. First up is resolution 2025-02-11-02. Resolution confirming 2025 election of officers. We did go around and ask, and we do have a proposal in terms of, unless someone else has it now, it's the existing officers with the exception that Greg will be replaced by Destiny as vice president. Laurie will remain as treasurer. Linda would remain as secretary, and I would remain as president. So, any discussion on that? If not, if you need a motion for the resolution approval,
Amanda, did you get those names for the resolution?
No, but I have the recording.
We need to have.
Oh,
names
for the
on-
resolution.
To pass along.
For the resolution, okay. One more time for me.
Jerry Bridges,
For
President,
president,
Vice President Destiny Wells, Treasurer Larry Hessel, and Secretary Lynn Saunders.
thank you.
We have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Rob, motion, we have a second.
Second.
Mike made a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, roll call please.
Jerry,
Aye.
Suzanne, Larry,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution vote carries. The next item is 3B, resolution 2025-02-11-3. Resolution authorizing 2025 signatories for banking purposes. Jen?
It's standard protocol every year after you guys vote on the executive team is we have to update our bank account because the executive team are the 4 primary signers on the account. So this would be a resolution to continue to have Jerry, Larry, and Linda on the account and adding Destiny to the account. Which would be done in arrangement with working with Destiny to have her come to the CIRTA offices and to get her on probably with an additional signer, at least one additional signer present.
Any questions of Jen? If not, I'll take a motion for.
So moved.
Linda, have a second?
Sorry.
Second by Ron. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Jerry,
Aye.
Suzanne.
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Next item up is 3C, resolution 2025-02-11-04, resolution to approve 2025 and 2026 salary schedule. Jen?
Yeah, so we were due to present our salary schedule for approval. The ranges in here were vetted by market research as well, presented to the executive committee for discussion. And really, to be honest, at the last time we approved a salary as well, we just had to make some minor adjustments. Like we did not have, our mobility manager was not the assistant director at the time, where they've been the assistant director now. And otherwise, everything else is pretty much the same in regard to positions. And yeah, it's pretty self.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why is it included 2026? In that
Um,
way? Not knowing what.
Yeah, well, we do have funding right now scheduled through 2027 for a majority of our programs, for like the CMAC funding, for example. And we have done salary schedules in the past for multiple years, so I just kind of asked, like, to do it for a year, do it for 2 years. I was told I could do it for 2 years, but we can do it for a year too.
Well, I mean.
I mean, that's
I've
that's
never
the
worked
answer.
I never worked anywhere because the market conditions can change.
Mhm.
Whereas, let's say, what was it, 3 or 5 or what was it?
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
well,
and you know, what if in 26 things change so drastically that it need to not push it down, but it needed to go up more? Then that range allows it, and it would just be the policy of whether or not it's 3 or 6 or 5 or whatever. How do you deal with that?
The way it's set now, is that schedule set for like a time period of 2 years. So I mean, it's possible that it can be brought back to the full board, if need be, for modification. Depending on what it is, like, I mean, several of us here are impacted directly, actually more than a few of us in terms of, any of the funding being withheld right now. Which it's been stayed, but it's possible to see substantial changes and like in our case. We don't have any money, we don't exist, so from our agency, but, we don't know that sort of things. So it was just to try to put it in place and not have to deal with it next year.
All right, so the policy stays in place. Whatever you say.
Well, the percentages have already been have already been voted on for 2025 already. Yeah, and in 2026, you guys will vote on the budget in December, so.
So that's a good change.
Yeah, so that if we had to make any kind of adjustments, but I can tell you though, when these ranges were created as well, there is buffer in there for that, so like it's. Nobody should be at the top of the range or anything crazy like that.
It's just set the ranges on, okay, each year that anything to set a salary for the next year would be brought back.
If it was just setting salaries, I would agree that we probably shouldn't be doing that
Yeah,
for 2 years, but since it's a range.
correct.
That's what I'm getting
I'm
at.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
If not, you need a motion for approval. The resolution, do I have a motion? So moved. Linda, do we have a second?
Second,
Larry, second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, Jim?
Sure, Jared,
Aye.
Suzanne, Larry,
aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item up is sort of updates, legislative update. Rick, Patrick, or Abby? Are they here?
So they actually just messaged me that they're caught up at the state house this morning. They did just send over an update that is forwarded to you guys. So hopefully everybody has seen that update. But they've been doing a good job of sending us the updates and monitoring the bills that are being potentially affecting us. So this is gonna hopefully be a pretty short meeting, which is good since Linda has to leave at 9:30.
So if you have any questions on the legislative update, please circulate that to Jen as well as to Rick or Patrick or Abby. And make sure you include Jen on that as well. So next item up is my building manager update. Amanda?
Good morning, everyone. We started with Go Express at the beginning of the year and happy to report that things are going well there. One of my favorite parts is some of the new technology that we have available through our relationship with them. So they use technology called CIRTA, and this allows if we have a caller that they call us right now and they say, hey, I'm at stop number 2, when is the bus coming? My schedule shows it should be here. Then we can actually see live on our screen from our computers where the bus is and update them, where before we could not do that. If it's something in the past they're calling about, maybe they get off work and they say, hey, this morning the bus never came and then I had to pay for an Uber, and we can contact Go Express. They have been awesome, very responsive. They will send me a screenshot of what has occurred. Where the bus was, I can see the stop sign and a timestamp. So it is great in verifying what our customers are saying, but also holding them accountable as well to what we need for our customers. So that's been wonderful. Our customers appreciate that as well, especially in these cold months when nobody wants to be standing outside of the stop and wondering when the bus is coming. So that's great. We will also be presenting a technology 2.0. Go Express will have some options for our EIDs if they're interested in having some additional options as well that would come with a cost. So we will provide that in the coming months. Happy to report that we've got our presentation ready to go for Whitestown. We've been working with TransPro on the potential semi redesign to look at possibly moving some stops, potentially even moving from Traders Point to 38th Street, because we now have 2 buses going there versus Whitestown, at Traders Point only 1, so that could potentially open up some more options. So we'll be meeting with Whitestown soon, going over those options with them and how we can help increase ridership through some of these changes and taking a look at what they propose. But we didn't want to, we wanted to make sure that we include them on those decisions and seeing what they think for that. Last big thing I want to make sure I update you on is that the pilot is still continuing. You may have seen in your notes that, so actually Suzanne here, she's one of our directors that is part of the potential pilot that we're trying to launch. But from Hamilton County, we recently learned that they have opted to go away from TripMaster. So TripMaster is the technology, the software that is used by both with Hancock County and Hamilton County currently. And so the hope was that CIRTA could have access to work as dispatch. And so someone would call to request a ride to cross county. CIRTA would be able to look and see if that trip is available through both counties and reduce the calls and the ability for people to have a more seamless experience. So I recently learned that Hamilton County has decided not to use TripMaster anymore. This came as a surprise to us. However, we do have plans. We're going to be meeting with them to find out a little bit more. I have an idea of some of the pain points that they had. However, we want to further look into this because of course CIRTA doesn't want to invest money in something if it's not something that we want to move forward with. Also just looking at what does that look like now? Because is there a potential to have talks with Hancock County and moving to what they're going towards, which is spare is what it's called. Obviously we know there's potential of that not happening, and so just talking about what we could look at, and of course the plan C, which would be manually doing everything. Do we need to have access to spare and TripMaster? Do we need to just have something in place where CIRTA calls both agencies? So it's not off the table. We're not crossing anything off yet. Obviously, a lot has been invested in this and we want to continue with it. But just so you know, there are conversations that are being had and we're looking, and of course, working with Philip at him advising us and Transpro advising us as well. But I will tell you that ridership is going well. So for Whitestown, we saw a big jump from 673 in December to 929 in January. So I'm trying to dig even further, like what happened? Are people just, is the experience just that much better now? I don't think it really would have changed overnight like that, but looking at what's going on there, was our previous vendor not, properly reporting their ridership? Plainfield too, up about 200 riders month over month too. So we're happy to see that. We'll take the increase, but definitely trying to keep a pulse of what it is specifically.
Yeah. And to add to that, for Amanda, we were kind of putting our heads together to try to figure it out, because we also do sampling audits on the connectors. So where Amanda will go ride the connector to make sure that the vendor is, appropriately documenting ridership and things like that. It's actually something we're required to have to do through FTA. And she sampled in January and the numbers were correct, and she sampled back in December and the numbers were correct. So we're kind of just waiting to see. She's gonna do a couple additional ride-alongs, a couple additional audits, just to kind of monitor the traction to see where we're at with it. But yeah, it was actually we were all quite surprised to see the jump, especially to historically it's quite the opposite because we have peak season. So and usually we see numbers, fall a little bit in January because seasonal hiring is done with, but we'll see. We'll keep monitoring that situation. So
Just a real quick question. How is Go
Express?
how is it recording what you said?
ridership.
Oh, the ridership. So they manually record. Their drivers have a clipboard with them, and every time someone gets on and off, they're tallying it on there, and then they turn in those sheets every week to me. So every Monday I receive their weekly ridership.
Oh, yeah, like maybe they were doing something electronic.
No, that is part of the technology 2.0 that is a possibility. So that's something that we can look to in the future, but both EIDs would have to adopt that new technology and they'll be giving us quotes and information on everything that it would be inclusive of.
Good news is rider ships are on both states there.
Yeah, same.
And, I caught up my son on the email chain software, the dispatch software, so hope we get a good idea, a little more wide, maybe change. So,
I will say that Ben has so we'll have to
Yeah.
think
They
about
had-
that. He has the same.
In that part of their services, so it could have been, that was a decision that may have already been underway, the Roscoe was there, or it may have been something, and then been in them, basically, did further.
Maybe, I just know Ben was on the phone with CTS a lot.
Yeah.
And so he was really trying to iron out the issues that we've been having, we've all been having. But he was really digging in, and we've tended to, we implemented it in 2019, right before COVID. Well, then everything that it could do sort of fell apart, and we were doing one ride at a time, and we were disinfecting after each ride, and so we had to sort of relearn when I got here in 2020. And I'm just now figuring out the weaknesses, I guess, in CTS. So it's on my radar too, just he has invested the time to sort of figure out if there's a better way, and they clearly did.
Well, Phil and David Johnson from Transpo were part of that discussion, so, and I'm glad that sort of hadn't invested yet in
Yeah.
master, so.
Me too.
We may find out that may be a trend and we may be going the opposite direction, so.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little delay or patience pay off, so.
Yeah,
find
and
out.
there was a move in, Hancock. It said in 2019, away from, I can't tell you which one we were using, but, for some of the same reasons, that they talked about the flexibility and things, but it sounds like maybe this other software has worked those things out that are more specific to kind of a micro transit model that we, so we'll see.
That's good to know. Thank you, Sven. Next up, Jen, Second
Yeah.
Director.
Okay, well, first of all, we have some new faces in the room that I would like to formally kind of point out. So first of all, welcome Suzanne. So Suzanne, would you like to just tell the group a little bit about yourself?
Sure, my background is not transportation. My background is more in public relations and nonprofits, and worked in nonprofit for a while. However, 7 years before I came to Hancock County, I worked in, student transportation. It's one of those moves that you make, who knows why. And so when I was looking, I ended up sort of partnering my nonprofit, my transportation, that's how I ended up at Hancock County Senior Services, who does all the senior services plus public transportation in Hancock County. And I've been there since 2020, and all is well. It's a lot. Nonprofit world is always, you all know that. I mean, it's and this is report time and all of those things. And then Hancock County, that whole situation changed, obviously, where we are a contractor for Hancock County versus an NDOT connected rural organization. And so Hancock County asked me to take this spot for them because I am, for all intents and purposes, the transportation partner of Hancock County.
Well, we're glad to have you, Suzanne.
Well, thank you.
And then I would like to introduce everybody to Chris. So Chris is our program manager for the Commuter Connect team. Chris, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Hi, nice to meet you. I am Chris, the new program manager, as Jen said. I come from sales, So I don't really have much transportation experience. Other than I was a dispatcher just recently at a company called Shred It. I worked there for about 3 years, but before that, I was mainly in sales, working for T-Mobile for almost 20 years in several different capacities. So I think it's a good complement to what my team is going to be doing and what they are doing. We have a whole team. So I'm excited to be here, excited to work with everyone and get to know you. And I'm sure in future meetings, you'll be hearing more from me. So.
Thanks, Chris. All right, so speaking of that, then I will, like Chris said, the team is doing great. So we have 13,092 registered commuters. Considering the team has just fully kind of boots to the ground in January, like got through all their onboarding, everything to that extent, registered 214 commuters. We have 89% of our commuters are active for matching. We have a goal of 65, so that's good. 22 employer events already that they've scheduled. These girls, Eliza and Sam, are just knocking it out of the woods. I'm very impressed with what they've been doing so far and their activities. They really have done a great job connecting with employers and their territories and scheduling ETC meetings. So we've added 4 new participating employers. So again, very impressive. I'm very happy with their work so far and what they've been doing. And Chris has been great, a great resource for Amanda and I. So we welcome you, Chris, and I'm very excited for that. Our van pool program has some strong leads right now. We've been trying to work very closely, especially with a lot of the changes that are taking place right now. We have Salesforce having their employees return back to the office. We've reconnected with some of our federal employers, such as the courts and different things with tabling events. We have some strong van pool leads with DFAS. Before the pandemic, I don't know if anyone remembers, but we used to have like 19 vans that just went to DFAS. And then COVID hit and all those vans stopped operating due to hybrid work. So now with the conversation of federal employees returning to the office and things like that, that's something we're closely monitoring to have those conversations and relationships, if that makes sense. Our vendor Commute by Enterprise has reached out to us, and they are rolling out a flexible van pool program to help with hybrid work schedules. Something that we are going to be talking with them more on, probably in the second half of this year. And seeing what we can do to eventually maybe transition to have that model in addition to our traditional model of van pooling. It could only potentially help us hopefully in the future, increase the number of van pools we have. As I mentioned and updated to you guys at the last meeting, our perennial review is in full force. So Brandy, Amanda, and I have working sessions scheduled. Philip is assisting us with some of it. All of the perennial review, 80 some pages of it that they're requesting are due at the end of February. So we have a lot going on here at CIRTA, so we'll be working on that together after this meeting, and they've been working on it, and I appreciate having them because it's definitely not a one-person job. So with that being said, March will be focused on March and April is typically going to be focused on a big part of that is our NTD reporting time for the agency. We did get notification. I got notification actually yesterday that usually our State Board of Accounts audit would be starting to occur in like April or May, but they're actually pushing that to August and September this year, which is considering we're going through a triennial review. I actually was very happy with that. They actually recommended that. I don't know if they recommended that because they knew we were going through triennial review. I didn't tell them, but nevertheless, it's welcomed. So I think it'll be better for the agency that way. It helps spread out some of the workload for us, especially as small as we are.
Do they utilize the information that would be contained in the triennial?
They do review that and utilize it, but the triennial review will not be wrapped up yet by the time the State Board of Accounts audit ends. Or it could be maybe at the same time, depending. We also were notified, that the apportionment tables for 5307 funding that fund the mobility management program, and are delayed this year. So with FTA, so usually those apportionment tables are coming out toward the end of February. Our FTA Region 5 rep is telling us, hopefully by April, they expect the full apportionments to go out. They did mention that there could be an option to release partial apportionments. But if that would happen, we would have to do 2 grants, double the work, 2 split letters with Indigo. And one of the things, after talking as a team yesterday with the finance team, Philip and Amanda and myself, you know, normally based on the timing of our FTA rep, like if we start writing our grant in April, if that makes sense, we already know the dollar amount we asked for. Like we can work ahead on the grant and kind of be ready, but we don't submit that grant doesn't get submitted anyways to June. So instead of doing partial apportionments and doing double the work, we're just gonna wait to end of March, April, see what happens with the apportionment tables, and hopefully we don't have to do double work. So that's kind of the plan right now. You guys tasked me, or we talked about at the last board meeting, looking into a line of credit. So I have some more information on a line of credit for the National Bank of Indianapolis. We sent them some preliminary financial documents and things to that extent for them to review. Of course, after talking with them and one additional financial institution, they do want you to have your accounts with them, so it doesn't make sense for us to get quotes with multiple other financial institutions or anything to that extent. Currently, they are saying the line of credit is interest rates are prime plus 1%. Prime as of 2/10, as of yesterday was 7.50%. It would be a rolling line of credit up to $100,000 with a 12-month term. Payments could be interest only with additional principal payments can be made at any time. A couple additional things I learned that obviously it would be subject to our grant schedule. The bank would have to be listed as a loss payee on insurance certificates. And there would be a $750 annual fee. So the big question is kind of like, I guess, if we want the executive team to continue to look into this topic for conversation. But that is the update I have, I literally just received that information yesterday. So from the National Bank of Indianapolis. So we can sit on it. I don't know if it would have to be voted on to continue to proceed with it. But that's what I've learned so far.
It would definitely require
Yeah.
a vote.
What's the board's pleasure? Then we just go ahead and have Jean continue to investigate, because if she decides that we're gonna do this, then we'd still bring it back to the board.
What is remind me what the thought process in line of credit was for?
Yeah, so it kind of started from, well, a couple of reasons. So it kind of started this past year when we were in the process of doing a grant, and we got to the point where the FTA was like, we need your STIP and your TIP documentation, basically the documentation showing that the grant, and I was like, Okay, in the past, I've always reached out to the Indianapolis IMPO and requested that, and they sent me an email. Okay, so, well, apparently, it was never put into the SIP and the TIP. Our team didn't know that there was a process of having to put it into the SIP and the TIP. At this point in time, we were leading up to the 4th of July weekend and working with our partners at NDOT and the IMPO. There's a process the IMPO has to go through, so many days of it being posted, they would have to have a forum. And it just wasn't gonna happen. We weren't gonna be able to do an emergency amendment to get the documentation in time. Well, then, at that point, that meant we couldn't submit our grant in time. And so we had to wait until trams reopened, use general fund dollars. And thankfully, we have pre-award authority to be able to get reimbursed. But it caused a lot of stress. And like now we obviously, our team, myself, Amanda, you know, we know those things now.
Sure.
But it was then kind of brought to our attention, like stuff like this, you know, have we ever considered a line of credit? And so that's where it kind of came from. That's the history and the background behind it. It was like, because those things we knew the money was coming, but it was gonna be delayed and,
So another way to say it is, from time to time, you have timing gaps between some of your grants.
yeah, that is correct.
So then you mentioned, and I'm just trying to think it through from a financial standpoint. We had the money to cover, and what was the line of credit extended? Like in this case, how much was needed? I assume this card would cover, this credit line would have covered that amount in this situation. Do you open that?
Do you wanna speak on that? Brittany?
I think the general fund covered about, I think it was like 80 or 90. When I went to go retro back, when we got the grant active, when I retro back the expensive, it was like, I think it was $90,000.
About $90,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can tell you too, we, during this time, thankfully, during this time process, we actually got a new Regional 5 rep to work with, at FTA that has been, that works a lot faster and has been very supportive with us. Whereas we were originally anticipating that we potentially might not have that grant active. We were able to draw down and reimburse ourselves, right before Christmas.
Yeah.
I kind of joked it was a Christmas present for me. I was feeling better over the holidays, but originally we were projecting it could have been into February. So, and it just was cutting it kind of close into our general fund, like into our cash reserve. So I have never experienced anything like that before as the director, but it was just something that somebody mentioned and I talked to the executive team with it about it and I was like, hey, should we, is this something you know? And I'm indifferent, but that's what
Yeah,
happened.
no, I'm just trying to understand.
So the issue, if I may, is this brought it to attention because this time, barely, you were able to cover that gap. Next time, the concern is, what if you can't cover it and you've not made arrangements ahead of time? If you do the line of credit, then there has to be some operating procedures in place about how and when it gets exercised, right, activated. But in this occasion, barely able to cover it, but what if it happens again and they needed 110 in the interim and they had 100 in operating? You had 100 in operating, yeah.
So there's kind of a thought process that, and forgive me if something's already been explained, but there's a thought process that there'll be some policies around this, whether you're using drawdown from reserve or using all of your line of credit, because obviously if you're paying 8.5% and it takes a while to reimburse yourself, now we're stacking up some, more fees on top of that, so it's You know, you don't wanna get yourself in a hole you can't dig out of either.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, if you don't have that available, there's a risk of losing grant, right?
yeah, there is, because of local funds matches, match requirements and things like that extent as well. Because not all of our grants are 100%. But yes,
And did a good job explaining it. It's more or less putting the foundation background in place. That if it's needed, it can be exercised, and if it's not needed, but then I can speak on behalf and, you know, you gotta put something in tip and stip. It's not as quick as it used to be. Used to be fairly quick process, but we've seen now approvals for like things that we approve locally. And our policy committee not getting it stiff for 3 or 4 months. And it's not necessarily because of what's going on, NDOT's taking that long to get through their approval process, so.
Sure. No, and I, you know, I don't know how this dip and the tip situation gets rectified because, yeah, Boone County faces it as well. We've had projects delayed. Or then NDOT threatens to withdraw funding, so then, you know, unfortunately, then I just hear other risks is like, okay, I get, you know. To be clear, I'm fully supportive of, you know, the safety net idea of a line of credit. I think that's a good idea. It's just one we're trying to figure out how to mitigate the other risks where it can, and it's not always very easy because it's.
Well, paying interest is something that you don't wanna do. You know?
No, absolutely. No, I'm just again thinking through some of the
yeah.
some
I
of the
mean,
pain points.
I don't even like the idea of a $750 annual fee, to be honest.
You know what you didn't know before, right?
Do, we do.
But yet, knowing what you didn't know doesn't mean that others may cause that to happen. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and like, let me give you guys, yes, and let me give you another example though, like, okay, so we work in advance with Indigo for our 5307 ask for funding. So we've been talking since the beginning of March, April of last year on what our 5307 ask is gonna be for 2025, right? So I present them a draft letter of a split letter. We have conversations with them, the MPO, talk about it. And then basically they don't sign that split letter until the apportionment tables come out. So right now, the apportionment tables are delayed. It is now 2025, right? So I am operating,
In February 9th.
yeah, so it's February 2025, yes. And then I am operating with that hoping that the plan will be that we will receive those funds for 5307. It's always been like that. That's nothing new. That's been like that since before I started here. So with that being said then, for some reason, if the apportionment tables come out in April and they're way different, Indigo could come back and then they could say, well, you know, we're not gonna be able to give that much money. Now, I don't think that's gonna happen based on the dollar amount. Cause our dollar amount is so small compared to what they typically get. But nevertheless, that's just an example. And then if that's the case, we had to put that dollar amount into the STIP and to the TIP early, anticipating that that was gonna be the case. So if April comes, the apportionment tables are different, let's say we do have to redo the STIP, worst case scenario, we would have to redo the STIP letter. Guess what? Then we have to amend the STIP and the TIP, and that takes time too. So this is just some of the red tape, or not red tape, but you know what I mean, like the things, it's the things we have to go through as a government agency, and I just like to explain that all to everybody, just so they understand the transparency of it and the timing of it, so there's no surprises ever.
So step one is whether or not the board is comfortable securing a line of credit, which is a cost of a $750 annual fee. That's step one. And that's a yes or no answer for the board. If that's a yes answer, then the next step would be determining policies about the use. And you know, that's a larger conversation, when and if it can be used and in what increments and, you know, the interest issue. But step one today is only whether or not, I mean, she's had these conversations, but they could still tell you no.
Yeah, they could. Like, we don't, I mean, we haven't done it, obviously, I can't do an application, it would be a member, it would be somebody on the executive team and,
Right.
you know, I'm just reporting right now, what I know so far,
So I would suggest that be the question, that someone make a motion in the positive or negative, and you decide.
I've got one additional question. Is there any reason to look at other financial institutions for rates or anything, or is it that pretty standard?
Well, what she said is they would require you to move all of your accounts, and she has talked to other ones. I don't know if they gave you rates.
no, because they basically said you have to have your business, you're we're such a unique governmental agency, like, they
Some semi-government.
are semi-government agency, yeah,
No such thing.
Yeah.
I don't ever know how to explain us, right? But, the short answer is no, like, we would have to move all of our accounts somewhere for anybody to even consider us, and then even then, I think it would be, a stretch.
Is this who our account?
Yes, National Bank of Indianapolis, we've been there since, as long as I worked here, probably forever. Well, no,
No,
because
not
we had a
forever.
public records request, we banked at Chase. at
That's
one
right,
point.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And the change was made. Basically, because they got a better deal. Thank
I think
you. That's what it was.
Bank Indianapolis treats us well. We work with a private client rep there. We have a office
Nice to, yeah, have an office in the building.
in the building. It's a nice thing, yeah. So,
Are there any other questions of Jim or Ann or us? I guess if we wanted to move forward on this, just need a motion
I
to.
move to proceed with the process of having the ability for letter of credit.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Larry and a second by Michael. Any other further discussion on this? If not, roll call vote, Jim?
Jerry,
Aye.
Suzanne,
I,
Larry,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Don. Sorry. Yeah,
Don?
Don, you good with Don?
We had a motion on the floor to proceed forward. with the
You're muted.
presentation. Can you hear us?
You're muted.
They want to talk good about it.
There you go.
No, I didn't hear it.
No.
We had a motion on the floor for moving forward on a line of credit. And we had a discussion on it, and Larry made the motion and Michael seconded, and so we're actually doing a roll call vote. Yes or
Aye.
no?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, feed that bird in the background.
The Cardinal.
I'm having my breakfast.
Kylie,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
You want to go ahead, Jim? Thank you.
yeah. All right, thank you guys. So I will work with the executive team on that and the banker to keep that conversation going. The last thing I have, just to kind of update everybody, on so 2025 partner contributions for CIRTA were due by February 1st. I have received Hamilton County's partner contribution. I've been in touch with Hendricks County and Madison County. But for everybody else, I plan to resend everybody the 2025 partner contribution invoice this week. So I appreciate any assistance with that. In addition to that, I have worked with a couple board members to work on getting on some of the commissioners to present in front of them. So if that is something you would like me to do, is present in front of your commissioners for partner contributions as well, I'm happy to do so. But I just wanted to let you guys all know where we stand with that.
Just, I'm sure there are other counties that have a situation like Henry's County. We have a brand new auditor.
Okay.
And I talked to her a couple weeks ago. She had no idea about the contribution, and I'm guessing for any new auditors, they're in the same situation. What's this? But the auditor presents that invoice, that claim to the commission for approval. So that might be part of the reason why payment has not been forthcoming.
Well, I was impressed with your auditor because she did reach out to me and ask for the invoice. So I did send her the invoice and copied you on it. So she thanked me for it. So I'm assuming it's fine.
If anybody needs Jen, to come meet with your elected officials, please let her know. So that she can be there. Hopefully you'll be there with her. And provide her with anything that she may need in terms of how to maybe approach that need be. So yeah, please do so. Because those are critical for the organization's operation. So you want anything else on that, Jen?
No, not on that. I mean, I appreciate everybody. I think our legislative team has just hopped on the call. The only other thing I had on my update is I just wanted to congratulate Amanda because she's going to be here 3 years on Friday. So congratulations, Amanda. Thanks for all you do.
She loves us.
I got a question before we get to that. At the national level, is there anything eliminated or put on hold, anything that anybody is seeing that's impacting it? I know we got issues at state level still, but is there any rumblings?
Yeah, education department is the next for Musk's chaos squad, and then the military. I don't think transportation has been is on the list yet, but eventually I'm sure it'll be there. And it concerns me what's going to happen to federal funding.
Actually, part of transportation wasn't on that alert because this is about 3 or 4 weeks ago when it was first announced. I was with info, our NEPIR, and we have a couple joint projects, and so we put a hold on the consultant doing the work at that time. And then this like SS4A was one of the discretionary grants on safety. Discretionary grants that we have contracts and we're actually doing consulting services now. Some of them were actually taking place, and the question was, they were mentioned. One, to the freeze, it's like, okay, you have a contract with this, we've already got some reimbursement. And the law will say you have a contract, and it's already, an exchange has already started to take place on that. But that being said, I'm kind of like you. It's a whole new frontier, even though I'd like to think that it's not going to be there. We'll find out. I think a lot of it's going to depend on the courts. In terms of that, but I don't think we're done with it. So Ron, in your case, like our agency, and I think a lot of people like us, we're looking at NATO, we're looking at ASHTO, we're looking at National League of Cities, a whole lot of places to see if they've got any updates. As of right now, there's some some services that are being impacted, USA is one of them. There are a couple others. We'll have to wait and see. I think the biggest glitch you'll find out is that they do some with Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, which I don't think they will, but that's not a possibility. It is a possibility. So the only thing we can do is, we've been told to proceed as normal and keep an eye open. So we actually re-engaged the consultant back on the board. But if we find out anything else, we'll have to deal with it at that time. That's a good question, though.
Do we still have a national lobbyist? We used to.
Yeah, we, our national lobbyist, we did not renew the contract
Okay,
in 2019, I believe.
okay.
The MPO keeps a pretty good handle on it. We've gone online a bunch of times with some of our national agencies, trying to figure out what's going on. So, yeah, new horizon potentially.
Well, I may be applying for mobility outreach if they, Social Security.
So if something happens, I don't know. Thankfully, we have some of our funding in the bank account right now, so thanks to the federal exchange program.
Yeah, I would say,
So.
the one thing I'd say is, we're doing. The one time there was a possibility that anything that hadn't been submitted, but we've been told anything that's in process, they'll honor. So getting your reimbursement request in is vital to not make sure they're delayed, otherwise you have an issue. You may have an issue. So.
Yeah, I can tell you when we learned about when this first was brought to our attention, we immediately acted. We had like a payroll coming up. We did a drawdown and did anything we could to, at that point in time, I was like, all right, Chris, we're not gonna post the open position. Let's pause that. So we have been monitoring it. I'm grateful. I know Christine, on our board has sent me updates. So I have other board members looking out for me on it as well. So it's, we'll continue to monitor it. All we've seen so far is that the apportionment tables are being delayed. So that's
Can we
all.
go froze reimbursements for like 5 minutes? I don't know. It was maybe
Yeah,
less-
it was
less
short.
than a day.
In less than a day. You got it.
I know, Senate Bill 1 is still, and they could give me an update here, but Senate Bill 1 will devastate local government, and contribution to CIRTA is probably one of the early things that would be
Okay.
cut. I know Phoenix County in 2026 would lose for all the units in the county over $44 million. And that would increase each year, the loss increases each year, and I think 2028, it's something like $65 million. And we're in good shape. There are lots of counties that simply will not survive. Just something to keep in mind.
It's like a good introduction.
Good introduction to Patrick. Patrick and Abby.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Sorry we are late. Things are crazy over here. They scheduled about 15 different committees yesterday for today, and tomorrow. So we've been moving around, but thank you for your patience. Well, I guess I'll just get into it. Several of the bills you would have seen in the update that I sent out this past week. One bill that we certainly care about is that bill containing the language for the cross-county transit that allows the adjacent counties to enter into that interlocal agreement. Right now, Lafayette can do that, but it's not prohibited in statute, but it's also not permitted. So they're trying to make that change to allow these transit agencies to work across county lines. That was heard, or it's going to be heard in the House Ways and Means Committee, not because of anything that has to do with that language, but there's also a provision in there that's requiring the BMV to create an insurance verification system. And so it has a pretty big fiscal impact on it. And so it went to the House Ways and Means Committee. It passed out of there unanimously. And then it's on third reading today. So it'll face that final vote before it heads over to the Senate. So that's where that bill's at. It still contains that language, which is good. In previous conversations we had, we talked about while it might not completely impact CIRTA, if it's good for the industry, we'll support it. So that's what we've been doing. Another important, oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Do you want to just roll to the state budget here real quick? Or do you want to go to notificate? Which one do you want to go next?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on state budget briefly. So
okay.
The state budget right now, it was heard last week for testimony only, and then it's going to come back. It's not on the schedule for this week, so probably next week for amendment, which will probably be significant. The proposal right now contains 45 million to the PMTF fund. That is standard. That's how it's been for the last however many years. And it is not changed at this time. John Metzginger with Fort Wayne City Link, and he's also on the PTCI board. He touched on the importance in committee of increasing that PMTF fund, how it's been static for a really long time, and it's not adjusted for inflation, all the talking points that we've talked through many times. So we're just kind of waiting, hoping that maybe the April budget forecast comes out and there's this pot of money that we can use for PMTF funding, and they can increase that based upon inflation. I think the number is 68 or 69 million instead of 45 million. So of that, CIRTA would get their percentage share, and we are just tracking that as we go. So it all depends on what the budget forecast is come April. All right, another bill. I do think that this isn't going to impact CIRTA, but I wanted to pay close attention to it because it could. It's notification of a wrapped vehicle, Senate Bill 331. So it provides that if a person has either a full vinyl wrap or a partial wrap on a vehicle that changes the exterior appearance, they have to report that to the BMV. I know our logo is on certain vehicles, and several entities are watching for that purpose, but it seems like that's not the target. They're really trying to get after those individuals who will change the color of their vehicle after committing a crime. Those individuals probably aren't going to contact the BMV and let everybody know that they changed their vehicle color, but that's what they're getting at. So that's being heard again today upon adjournment of another committee that's going on right now. So we'll keep watching it and let you all know if for some reason it could impact us. And then next up, road funding. Patrick, I don't know if you have anything to add on that. The bill was amended pretty significantly yesterday and passed out of committee. It doesn't have any direct impact on CIRTA, but it's going to change how road funding is done within the region that we operate in. So it does several things. It got rid of the provision that addressed pavement surface evaluation and rating system, so PACER. It got rid of the provisions that had to do with that. It's allowing NDOT to issue a waiver to implement tolling in Indiana. It deals with the community crossing grant fund, and it has a couple increases there for some local units. And then it also deals with the vehicle excise tax, municipal wheel tax. A lot of things are changing with that, with property taxes. The way that our counties are funded is going to drastically change depending on what passes. I think Patrick can probably
so
that a little bit.
Amendment 11 was passed by the Chairman Pressel. It was the only amendment that was taken into consideration. The bill had effectively 37 pages of ideas, some of which the chairman himself didn't even believe in, but they were included. So a lot of different pieces, some township contributions were removed, although he verbally said the township is still a work in progress. It does tweak the language on bridges. Expect some more changes on bridges as well as they try to kind of work through that. So you see that there's a significant change on bridge piece where if you're designing a bridge, your municipality, you need to be in consultation with the county on bridges, because eventually the bridges are being mandated by this to also take over those bridges. Also look for some potential opportunity for a major bridge fund flexibility, as that Pacer 7 is now a Pacer 6, 200 million spillover process and changes. You also have the tolling conversation continues, but it does not. That tolling polled about 11% favorable, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It recently polled about 22% favorable. Why do I know this? Don't ask, don't tell. But that's where they still consider that, but polling for a primary opponent or challenger could be a political nightmare for some. So you do have that piece, is that there are some positives in this, but this bill and many of the other bills we're talking about are going to have some substantial changes as it works through the process. Do look, though, for the potential of community crossings to really substantially change, as well as a requirement for communities that do not have a wheel tax to adopt a wheel tax for potential scoring on transportation projects. May not necessarily be a assertive piece, but with what many of you are interested in and how the whole holistic approach to transportation evolves, that's something that I know you all pay attention to.
Absolutely. Those are kind of the big bills that are moving right now, that we wanted to make you aware of. But there's about a 9-page long track list that I sent over on Sunday. So if anybody sees anything in there that really pops out and wants to know more information on, or thinks that it might impact CIRTA in a way that we haven't already identified, please let us know. And we will be happy to speak more about it and do some digging into the genesis of the bill.
Jennifer, I sent earlier, there was some conversation just a couple minutes ago about Senate Bill 1. There is a significant amendment this morning in Senate Tax and Fiscal that makes substantial changes, to some degree of repudiation of some of the original proposals from the Brown administration by Senate Republicans. Senate Bill 1, frankly, I think it was said earlier, would be an absolutely crushing to a lot of units of government. Yes, that is correct. We could probably choose even more colorful adjectives, and we would be truthful. The amendment does make substantial changes. It's all going to be a matter of degrees. Overall, the governor's administration was looking for about a $1.5 to $1.7 billion worth of cost savings, all of which were to be experienced by local government, counties, municipalities, townships, you name it. That number seems to be getting skinny down, maybe by half, maybe by 2/3. We'll see where that goes. The state still has considerable funding challenges. We're in a committee report deadline time period right now. Second and third reading deadlines are next week. So like the Great American Way, deadlines are beautiful, and people are being pretty fast and furious. It is a pretty tumultuous time at the State House. You have a true governor's transition, which probably the General Assembly has not seen a transition of this nature to some degree, probably, I would say, since 2005, to be very blunt. So a lot of different changes, organization of state government, cabinet secretaries are clearly watching, committee hearings, their chief of staffs clearly are as well, as we get questions on a daily with regards to what somebody else said or even what we may have said. You do have a difference with regards to policy being driven very frankly by a cabinet secretary, former Representative Hubler. Ken Abernathy's running NDOT. Really right now, time will tell exactly kind of what how the roles are defined between current Cabinet Secretary Hubler and NDOT Commissioner Abernathy. They're working together, but in terms of how things may have been decided, policy decisions, direction, that really appears to be really the Cabinet Secretary, not necessarily the NDOT Chairman at this time. Stay tuned, that could all change tomorrow, but that's clearly the direction and frankly, in a large part, the direction many agencies are moving, that the Cabinet Secretaries are truly shaping policy and vision, regardless of what those agencies are.
Any questions? There's a lot of information.
Well, I've got a question, and I know that it's difficult to have an answer for it, but we hear all of what this goes on. But the reality of existing in all the services isn't always making it better, faster, or more efficient. I mean, if you're at that level and you've made major changes and efficiencies to your operation at local government, what is the anticipation of how local government can continue to provide the services after they've done improvements to their efficiency? I haven't heard an answer to that.
Some of you in the room may have heard this. I've heard it delivered straight to my face within 3 feet. It's show me and tighten your belt. Show me and tighten your belt. That's not an answer, but that's the answer that's given. Show me why you need these balances. Show me why you're spending your money in the manner in which you're doing. And prove to me why you need these dollars. And so it's a frustrating time for many in local government, including some that you would think that the governor would really be paying attention to. But for whatever reason, that's not occurring. So not an answer to you, but it is the answer that's provided when even myself and others ask that very question, which is a good one.
Well, and I've heard that, but to show me something, you've got to know what you're looking for. And, if you show, what is it what is it we would be trying to sell and show if there's no parameters of what the show me is, that you expect that to come out, because everybody's going to show, but what is it that they're really, really looking for on the show me part of it? The architect.
Yeah, it's I couldn't agree with you more. You see county leaders throughout the state, particularly counties that are generally would be viewed as potentially prosperous. Senate Bill 1 takes out the ability for a levy appeal, which a lot of communities in the CIRTA territory, if you will, our geography really need for a circuit breaker. So levy appeals are removed, and it really does harm a lot of local government. I do think that Senator Holden has shown a little bit of his cards today, where he didn't really like what was in Senate Bill 1. So still doing a full analysis. I did get a preview of it late yesterday, but there's a lot of moving parts. I did send, though, 2 different versions to Jennifer, which she can share with everybody. One's a markup version, so you see the original bill, and you actually then see what's being removed and what's being added. Usually the best way to read a comprehensive piece as well. So, but that's the piece that I would encourage you to take a look at. Senate Bill 1 will substantially change on the House side as well. and we'll see where that all works out.
With the state, with the General Assembly indicating that, that it's to cut funds, Medicaid and so forth, increased costs, and the state claiming poverty and can't pay, for its, state employees, probation officers, for instance, who are state employees, but county has to pay for them. Is there any discussion at all about freezing the income tax, the reduced income tax? If you can't pay your bills, how can you give away money?
Oh, on the freeze on the income tax, governor's trying to find a way to achieve a large list of his campaign promises. And he's actually already started dropping quietly several of them. But I think some tax pieces are there. You also have property tax conversations for seniors that continue, which cause other issues, but I won't take up our time here today on that. But the governor's clearly trying to resolve a whole host of issues that he's talked about on the campaign trail. It really does create some pretty interesting winners and losers amongst local government on some of these matters as well.
Curiosity, and maybe this has been discussed, but the tax or the state sent out refund checks because there was a surplus a year or two ago. So how do we go from a surplus to, poverty in short order like that?
I think a large part of it is that Medicaid continues to grow. We have a structural shortfall of $1 billion there. And the April revenue forecast, how should I say this? All this conversation is almost preliminary in nature until we see an April forecast. Just to be frank, I mean, it's all about this April forecast time period at this point. So once we get this April forecast towards the end of the session, a lot of these bills may have major surgery based on what that revenue forecast, otherwise known as tax collections, may show. And I think that's what they're trying to do. Generally speaking, the state budget here in House Bill 1001 is the previous biennium's budget. It's very simplistic. So if anyone received an increase or had changes in the current biennium state budget, you don't see that in House Bill 1001 is the easiest way to explain what the introduced version is as it sits today. So it really goes back to the previous biennium budget. So like our funds that we're concerned about are flatlined at 45. That's not a loss or a win. It's always good to have your number in there. Some groups don't have a number at all because they just got introduced into the state budget and the current budget. But the governor just went back to a lower level funding as well. Sorry, we're getting requests. Abby just had to jump off because Representative King wanted to grab her. So just so everyone knows where she disappeared to. We're into the illustrious phone booths at the State House. If you've ever seen them, there is a old school pay phone that still has a dial tone. I check it every year just so everybody knows. Things I'm entertained by. I don't know. So, you got to have something to entertain you when you got nothing but bad news for everybody, particularly this year.
The only other thing I shared, I heard you mention wheel tax, and I just shared it with the group.
I just saw that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what CIRTA's position is, but in general, the study from LTAP indicates that if you pass a wheel tax, counties typically will only receive about 50% of that wheel tax funding. So then local officials, it may not behoove them to want to pass it because it goes to cities and towns, irregardless of if the city or town passes the wheel tax, so. It's not the, I don't know that it's the cure-all that it looks like in the legislation, so. It's generally opposed by a lot of people, and there's been discussion about, could you supplement the wheel tax with other, dedicated sources, but I just figured I'd put that out there for everyone's information at least, so.
Yeah, it's a
I
40.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, roughly, then it,
County gets 40, county gets 40 and 100% of the heat.
yeah, and then it even breaks it down further, I think we get like 35% because of our population distributions that poor, so. Yeah. So. Anyway, just wanted to make sure that was on everyone's radar, so.
I appreciate that.
After you noted, or you did, that they're gonna do away with pacer ratings on pavement.
The pacer rating is still there. I think they just went to pacer level 6. I need to understand that. Frankly, those in the room right now probably understand that a little bit better. I understand pacer ratings though from a couple different perspectives. One formerly being running an engineering firm, so it's still there. That program is still pretty darn valuable. I don't see how the state sees that potential elimination as a positive.
I think from other groups I've talked to, everybody's gonna turn in a 6. Whatever you need to get funding is what your roads are gonna score.
Yeah, because
And
that
then-
pacer, they went from a 7 to a 6. That's clearly in the amendment, to your
Yeah,
point.
and the only other, and LTAP doesn't want to get turned into the police because they're meant to be kind of a neutral party on that, so are you gonna make somebody else, who's gonna oversee to make sure that these things are happening, so.
Who are they gonna have to do the oversight to actually,
Right,
to do some kind of QA/QC and say, is this really what your pavement's rated at or not?
sure. I mean, there are methods out there using AI that can
Yeah.
give you a pacer number like that, but you're taking away local control now, and that's a whole nother discussion, so. I had heard that piece might go away because it is kind of just one of those. You're gonna tell somebody they gotta get a 6, they're gonna get a 6.
Well, same thing with ADA, you put in a transition plan and if there's no way to follow up.
Yeah.
If you don't follow up on what they said they're gonna do, then you've got a plan, but they're not doing it.
Right.
It's a good thing. The real problem is that, I mean, if they don't have money, they're not gonna do it. Point blank. And the only reason why someone are doing it is just so much community crossing. Until they get.
Well, and the hard part too, in some of the community crossing, they're showing an increase in overall community crossing, but they're not showing what the request is from the locals, and they're not showing how much doesn't get awarded and how much gets left behind, so. But they cap every agency at $1 million, now $1.5 million, but they won't commit to the long-term $1.5 million that's available, so. You're saying this, but then they're not being fully transparent with sharing on the local side, so. It makes it, I think it's an artificial inflation of CCMP.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to
I can
add
get-
to our
yeah.
legislative team? That is kind of a digression. So, anybody else? Patrick, thank you very much, and to Abby, thanks as well. Appreciate the updates that you send out on a regular basis. Please keep us apprised, especially, I think everyone in here, and SB1 does have an impact on CIRTA, so not everything else from government, so. Thanks again for all you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you for allowing us to do so. This will be the proverbial ever bouncing ball.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Try to enjoy the rest of your day.
I'll let you know in May.
Take your guys, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Do we have anything else today for,
One thing I wanted to mention, Karen presented last time on My Freedom, and we didn't tell you that 2024 finished with 1,283 trips. And just last week, her and I presented in Boone County at ILAD in Zionsville. And that was very well received. There were over 60 in attendance in person. Over 600 people have viewed the presentation that we gave. We both gave a little overview of what CIRTA and SACOA do, but then went into detail about the My Freedom program. We had so many people coming up to the table saying, thank you for offering this type of transportation. Thank you for, these resources. So if anyone else wants us to come visit your county too and share that, so ILAD, they were like so grateful, it was all focused on transportation, and you can find that on Facebook too, the presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You need a motion for adjournment?
You can just ask, is there anything further?
Hey, I did.
Say, well, you can just say we're adjourned.
Okay, we're adjourned.
That's quartering Robert's rule. That's cool, me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody online. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Listening to. And, local government.
No, we don't have one.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking to two cents together when they smashed.
Madison County, I mean, everybody went to Trump. What matter?
So I finally.
You know, what do you-
So I need to look and see.
I mean, at one time they had 120